everybody, it's Calxiyn here with a RWBY theory. I hope you enjoy, but before we start, shout out to my current Patreon Huntsman tier patron, Edwin. So while doing research for another video, I came up with this theory, and basically, it's that originally, faunists were people who could turn into animals. And what happened, well, I didn't really get that far, but maybe they got stuck during transformation, or they used one trait too much and so it became part of their person. So say for example, someone were to use their cat ear so much that they just kind of got stuck there and they couldn't transform in and out of it again. And that's kind of my theory for where the faunist head came from. And so if this was the case, I was thinking, okay, well, if this happened, then there should be groups that avoided this in society, because there are people who are away from the societies of the kingdoms and, you know, things like that. People who could have avoided this happening to them somehow. And I was thinking, in our real world, who do we see that could be, you know, similar to that? And what I was thinking was, okay, a lot of the time we see that tribes, whether they're in North America or whether they're, you know, tribes in the East, like China, and tribes in Japan, because there are indigenous people literally everywhere in the world. We tend to think of only Native Americans, but we forget that there are people all over the world that are, you know, tribes and cut off from society. And so I was thinking, okay, well, do we have any tribes in RWBY? And the answer, you know, we found this out a while ago, turned out to be yes, and I got really excited about that. So let me explain. We know Raven and Crow are both a part of a tribe, and tribe has a very obvious connotation when it's, you know, used in general. Tribes are generally associated with indigenous people or Native Americans. And so in RWBY, we've had constant references to a world, like the faunists are a metaphor for racism against certain minorities, the kingdoms are referencing real world places, things like that. You know, Menagerie is Australia, sticking all the quote-unquote criminals there. Vale as your everyday kind of melting pot of all these people. Vacuo as like this Middle East or Africa, you know, as we came in, took the resources like oil, etc. And then Minstrel inspired by East Asian countries, and finally, kind of, I mean, Atlas as Russia, but that's kind of my own personal headcanon that I think we've talked about before. I don't think I need to explain why. But anyway, there are references in RWBY that are to our world already, so saying that the tribes could be based around real tribes that we have in our world isn't too much of a stretch either. And so how does this all relate back to Raven? Well, if Raven and Crow are part of this tribe that are similar to North American tribes, I took a dive into North American lore, and ravens are actually a very important part of their lore, from what I researched, and the raven is considered this trickster because it can change or transform. Now, who else can change and transform? Raven, as far as we know. Also Crow. People think that if Crow can do it, then Raven probably can too, as we see that sometimes when Crow is present, there are other birds kind of, like, there seems to be another bird around him sometimes, and we also kind of see that Crow is looking to a raven, and then the raven flies away, then suddenly he's kind of in the diner with Raven when they first kind of had their first interaction a few episodes ago. So I think it's fair to say that Raven can also do it too. And I'm not worried about Crow right now, so forget about Crow. Ravens bring messages that are beyond space and time, are a keeper of secrets, and try to determine answers. Ravens are supposed to expose the truth. So how does this apply to Raven? Raven has some sort of travel that seems to be at least beyond the natural order of things beyond this world. She opens portals and goes through that portal dimension and comes out on the other side. Raven is a keeper of secrets, and she is looking for answers. She asks about the relic. She's acting as a double agent, or at least we think she is, which is heavily implied by Crow. She's trying to expose the truth to him by feeding him information, but she's also trying to seek the truth and seek answers because she knows that Crow is hiding stuff from her. So what about then the shape-shifting part? Is that exclusive just to Raven? And I'm thinking no, because there are another word for those who can turn into animals that is also centered around Native American, First Nation, indigenous peoples' culture, and that are skinwalkers. So, some North American and First Nations legends talk about skinwalkers, and they are people with this supernatural ability to turn into any animal they desire, but to do so, however, they must be wearing a pelt of a specific animal. Now, the legends vary, so I'm probably going to be talking about basically all of them I could find. These kind of all coexist with each other, and they vary between different tribes. But I'm kind of looking at all of them to figure out this puzzle that we have. And we see that Raven is wearing feathers, or I guess you could say the pelt of a raven. She does so on her head, so when she has that mask, she also has those feathers behind it. For a while, people thought, okay, maybe it's her hair, but we see that when she takes it off, those aren't included. So obviously, she seems to be wearing something raven-related. And with Crow, admittedly, we don't see anything on him. We haven't seen yet. But according to myth, some can turn into animals by having a pouch of feathers or claws. Crow does have this necklace on his neck, which kind of looks like a cross, but I was thinking that maybe it could actually be, like, maybe a carved bone or something cool like that, because Crow seems like the type of dude who would have something awesome such as that. And while I was looking, there were some other kind of legends where it said, oh, you know, you don't need to have anything at all, you just kind of need to like bond with that animal somehow. There were a lot of different kind of ways that it was explained, but it's across all different kinds of cultures. North Americans aren't the only ones that have it. While I was researching it, there's also in, like, some Chinese tribes also include this in their story. So obviously this is a very prevalent sort of legend that we're seeing in our world. And so I wonder if maybe that is a reference to both Crow and Raven, that they are both skinwalkers of their tribe. And that is why Raven would be now the leader of the people, because they would see her as this powerful entity who holds this thing of their past. And that's why I was thinking, if people could originally turn into faunus, or turn into animals, and that's kind of how the faunus developed, then maybe if that tribe was separated enough, and these people were powerful enough, they would be able to kind of keep that thing from their past. And this could be even separate from their semblance, kind of like a magic similar to the maidens, where it came from this long time ago, but that remains to be seen, and I'm sure we'll find out soon, since Crow has been shown in episode 6 and episode 7, and he's about to go down and tell a story. And who knows, maybe we'll find a little bit more about that. Since John does ask how Crow gets there so fast, he'll have to explain that he can in fact turn into a bird. But anyway, Hunter and I are gonna talk about this, so let's get started. Okay. Hunter, you listened to that.
Yes, it did.
There's obviously a lot packed in there because it kind of has to do with my theory about the faunus in general, but even without that, I think it's pretty supported by the fact they are a tribe. Like, Raven is obviously the leader of the tribe, she can turn into a bird, you know, all of that stuff combined, even without the original faunus stuff and how they were created, it all just seems to make sense, doesn't it?
I think that it makes sense what you're saying, like the logistics of, okay, yeah, Raven is like that. I think just that it needs to be in context with the rest of the show, and although you're right, I guess there are real world equivalencies to you know,
RWBY.
different civilizations and peoples in RWBY. I don't quite know if I think that tribes are one-to-one with Native Americans, because they seem to be more like marauding.
We haven't seen them enough yet.
But the way they're described, like, they kind of are like marauders and nomads, which really weren't Native Americans.
I guess.
In
The
some
fact that
respects
they
they
use
were.
tribe instead of nomads,
Yeah.
though, because they kind of... I remember in the world of Remnant when they were talking about the people outside the kingdoms. I don't remember exactly, but they said nomads, travelers, and tribes. So it seems to be 3 separate sort of things. And she does call them, you left us, like you left their tribe. And because she used that wording, I was kind of like, okay, let's go into the lore. Because it may not be, like, our Native Americans that we know, but because minstrel is so heavily, you know, close to, like, East Asian culture, then it may be more of a, like, maybe I need to dig into the Chinese lore a little bit more, or the Japanese lore. But they actually did have a little page on, like, on the wiki and other things that I was looking that described some of the Chinese legends as well, and I thought that was kind of interesting, because this seems to be something that's kind of come up all over the world, it doesn't matter. And so I was like, like, this seems popular enough that maybe they would include it in the show as a reference.
I guess that could be a possibility. So yeah, no, I'll allow it.
You'll allow it? You'll allow this theory? I won Hunter over twice in a row, guys. Twice in a row. You know? I really like this. It's just because then you kind of understand why Raven is so powerful, you know what I mean? Because she has obviously, like, she's the leader of their people now, And so you start to wonder why, and you see it. She's an excellent fighter. She's fucking terrifying. And if she has this, you know, power from old of turning into a bird, if she's this kind of special, like, messenger for these people, because as I said before, like, Native Americans think that the ravens hold a big part in their lore, and all of the stuff that they said in their lore describes Raven, like, almost to a T. Like, I got really excited about that when I saw, like, you know, the seeking answers and stuff like that, because that describes her so well. It's almost like it was meant to be, like, this is, like, she's the chosen one sort of thing. And she's kind of like Crow. She's this, I don't want to say, like, witty drunk, but you know what I mean? She kind of has a similar personality as him, where she is bitter, and she is not, like, your standard chosen one where Ruby is so innocent and everything, but Raven is just kind of this bitter, stoic, like, mysterious character. You know, she doesn't fall into the chosen one trope, but yet, like, when you construct this theory together, she just seems like she's the chosen one of her people, you know? And I get excited about that because it's breaking the trope, you know what I mean?
You're just a little passionate about this.
I know. It's just because, I don't know, Raven just breaks everything that we think about when we think about, like, you know, the chosen one trope, right? And so Ruby is the chosen one trope, but Raven is like the Crow chosen one trope, you know what I mean?
You hardly ever see a chosen one
who is like bitter and angsty and all this.
Who is an anti-hero.
Yes, she is an anti-hero. That's exactly what I mean. And so that's why I'm so excited about this, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Like, from the moment Raven was introduced, like, scaring Neo, I found this kind of like, I don't know, I got drawn into her mysterious quality, so I feel like this explains it so well. But anyway, you guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like so the YouTube algorithm won't screw me over. I don't know how long I need to keep saying that, but probably for a long, long time until it gets fixed. If you have a question or comment about this theory, go ahead and post it down below. I always reply to everybody. I don't know if you guys saw, but over Christmas, like, I was pushing out replies, because I was behind. I needed to catch up, and so I love talking to you guys, and it was not easy to catch up, and so I hope you guys appreciate that. If you want to support me on Patreon, there's a link in the description, but, you know, no pressure, no pressure. We're still here. We're doing well. Anyway, guys, we will see you next time. I'm so glad I won over Hunter again. Bye-bye!